God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege, and this is the Protege program. Fantastic news I've received in just moments ago is when I heard about it. Just happened to turn on my radio at the perfect moment. I've been very busy today, so I haven't been able to follow the breaking news stories as closely as I would like to. But I just heard on the radio that Anthony Kennedy has announced he is going to retire. As you can see here, CNN reporting 43 minutes ago, Washington Post, BBC News, both reporting 2 hours ago. I think this is fantastic. Not only are we rid of a justice whose opinions were very, very difficult and long to read, but we're rid of a Supreme Court justice who I find quite activistic in his rulings. As you can see here, Justice Kennedy once again being called a swing vote. Just yesterday he was a conservative on the Supreme Court, but now that he's retiring, he's a swing vote. So I'm very much looking forward to getting a constitutional originalist onto the Supreme Court in Justice Kennedy's place. Now, we can continue talking about the Supreme Court. We can talk about a recent decision that they made in regards to labor unions, specifically public sector labor unions. And contrary to what the signs in two of these three pictures here are claiming, the decision that the Supreme Court made in regards to public sector labor unions had absolutely nothing to do with the workers and only to do with union administration. You see, there were some unions in the public sector that were forcing non-union workers to pay union dues even if they weren't members, simply because the union was somewhat voluntarily doing work on behalf of these non-union workers. Now, in the real world, this is called charity, but in the public sector labor union world, this is apparently, work that is deserving of compensation, even if it's unwilling compensation. So the court ruled that that it's unconstitutional to compel a worker to pay union dues for a union that the worker doesn't want to join. And I would think that that's perfectly in line with the principles of liberty. I think it is appropriate, as these columns state here, that the blow is to public sector unions and not public sector workers. The blow is to the unions, not to the workers. Nothing in this decision has anything to do with the workers, unless the labor union decides that they're going to stop negotiating on behalf of non-union workers. Then that's going to affect the workers, but at least then those non-union workers will get to make choices based on what they believe should be done, and not making choices based on what the union tells them that they should be doing. But that's not what I want to spend the most of our time on today, so it's actually fine that I lost that page. I want to spend most of our time today on the New York 14 primary. Ignore the fact that I spelled primary wrong. Just overlook that little factoid there. A 10-term incumbent in New York 14 was just primaried by an under 30 millennial, that makes her a millennial, out of the closet socialist in the Democrat Party. This candidate, Alexandria, I'm assuming that's not pronounced Ocasio, but that's the way I'm going to read it, Cortez, has some, I would say, somewhat radical policy ideas. Apparently this person subscribes to the Justice Democrats way of thinking. The Justice Democrats are a socialistic organization, and you can see maybe more than one tweet here. It looks like perhaps more than one tweet from this person from Alexandria, and her very first tweet is hilarious to me. Let me read it to you and see if you can spot the joke. I completely agree with Senator Sanders. Interpretations of us versus them are unproductive in our discourse and, in my opinion, misguided. This is about fierce advocacy for working class Americans. The Socialist is tweeting against us versus them. Seriously, the Socialist is talking down at people who are allegedly taking an us versus them. I can't say this with a straight face. Socialism is all about us versus them. What are you talking about, you hypocrite? Oh my gosh. This is hilarious to me. If you don't find this funny, then you have no sense of humor. I don't know how else to say it. The Socialist is talking against us versus them. I'll give, spoiler alert, socialism is exclusively about us versus them. Socialism just about invented us versus them. It's not us versus them along racial lines or gender lines, although it's starting to break that way thanks to intersectionality. Socialism is all about the mob versus the elite. It's all about the poor versus the rich. All about the haves versus the has-nots. The haves versus the have-nots, however you say that. And it's funny, the kind of people that socialism attracts these days. Now, I do think it is interesting. If you read about, and I'm probably about to lose the webpage here, but hopefully not. If you read about Miss Alexandria's campaign, it was a very grassroots movement. Cortez was outraised by her opponent. What was his name? Cortez was outraised by Crowley, who was second in line for House speakership if Democrats took over in 2018, by the way. Crowley outraised Cortez nearly 10-1, or something obscene, like $3 million to 500,000 or so. It was insane. And yet Cortez won. I don't know if it was in a landslide, but it was a grassroots movement. Cortez shot her viral campaign video, at least it was called viral, I never saw it. She shot her viral campaign video in her home with a script that she wrote herself. Cortez is the real deal. Cortez is what I've been talking about when I say that the next generation of Democrats believes in socialism. They're not just preaching it for the sake of obtaining control over Americans. They believe in this stuff. It's kind of scary that they believe this stuff. But anyway, what I think I'm stumbling here over my words. If I understand it correctly, the Democrat candidate has won New York 14 in a landslide ever since Crowley, or at least as long as Crowley has been running. The question is a socialist going to be as popular among the people who have been electing Crowley as Crowley was? I haven't done any research to see what the electoral breakdown has been like in terms of who Crowley was winning over in New York, but it could be that there's some capitalist-minded liberals in New York 14 who don't like the idea of socialism. Socialism is not popular nationally. Socialism is extremely popular on college campuses and in the most blue of Democrat strongholds. The extremely deprived urban centers. Socialism is very popular in these areas. Nearly everywhere else, socialism would not be touched with a 9.5-foot pole. It's why Democrats don't openly run on socialism. But it's what's forcing the Democrats farther and farther and farther to the left. Because when you've preached socialism for the past 40 some odd years, eventually you're going to get a generation of your voters who genuinely believe what you've been preaching. And they're going to want candidates that believe what they believe and that preach what they believe unabashedly. You know, champagne socialists don't want to vote for a liberal. They want to vote for a socialist. They believe in socialism. Just like conservatives want to vote for a conservative. It's why Mitt Romney didn't win the 2012 election, because he was a milquetoast conservative. It wasn't until very late in the game that he, began. If I understand the 2012 campaign correctly, I wasn't following it as closely as I have been, and especially not as closely as I followed 2016. But Romney was a very watered down version of a conservative. And it didn't take a genius to see this. Romney was the governor in Massachusetts who presided over what Obama called in the 2012 campaign the precursor to Obamacare. So it's almost like the establishment picked the absolute worst candidate to run in 2012 against Obama. Kind of like the Democrats picked, somewhat against their will, the absolute worst candidate to run in 2016. So, So socialists are going to see more and more success among the Democrat Party, because where do these socialists have to go to vote for other socialists? Third-party candidates can't get traction anywhere. So they have to go to the Democrat Party. Socialists aren't going to go to the Republican Party because Republicans aren't going to vote for a socialist, not under any circumstances. So socialists wanting to win a high-profile election have to go to the Democrat Party. And that's where a lot of the socialists are anyway, is in the Democrat Party. Because enough of the old guard Democrats talk closely enough to a socialist that they attract the socialists. So socialists are going to see more and more success in the Democrat Party, but are they going to see that kind of success when it comes to more general elections? Is Cortez going to attract the same coalition that elected Crowley to 10 consecutive terms in the House of Representatives? Would Cortez attract the same kind of constituency that elected Senator Feinstein, that elects Senator Feinstein over and over and over again? You know, thanks to the I want to say 14th or 20th Amendment, and I can't remember which one. The state senators are elected by popular vote, according to the entire state. So maybe a candidate like Cortez gets elected by a state Democrat party in a state like Texas. But is Cortez going to win a general election against the entire state of Texas? Probably not in Texas. Maybe in a state like New York. Maybe in a state like California. Maybe in a state like Minnesota that's been electing Democrat senators for a long time. Maybe in a state like Hawaii. Definitely not in red states. I would say almost certainly not in purple states. And I'm saying maybe in blue states. We're going to have to wait and see. This is a House of Representatives seat that Cortez has presumably won once the general election rolls around. I mean, this is a very deep blue district. It's not like this is a purple district. This is a deep blue district that Cortez has won a nomination to. So I wouldn't be surprised if she won the general election come November. But we'll have to wait and see. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. We've got two topics that we've been talking about today. The Supreme Court, the retirement of Justice Kennedy. Good riddance, I say. But what are your thoughts? The continued rise of socialism in the Democrat Party. Bring it on, I say, but what are your thoughts? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss future videos. And make sure that you're checking back every weekday just in case some shenanigans are going on. Thank you again so much for watching. Come back and join me tomorrow for a new report. Until then, good night and God bless.